What is going on, Trophy Kids? We've got an awesome one here for you. We are breaking down the AFC East. Very competitive division. A lot of teams of tomorrow coming up in this one. It is a good one. We are going in depth on the Buffalo Bills and what their chances are at a Super Bowl this year. You're not going to want to miss this one. Let's go.
Welcome, Trophy Kids, presented by Bad News Media. It is the AFC East preview edition, and I gotta say, I'm excited. We are just getting so much closer to football season. I saw today that Amazon Prime released their Thursday night anthem. I haven't watched it yet, but it's just preseason games. Hard Knocks is going on. I'm feeling good right now. We're getting even closer and closer.
It's officially time to get excited. Even on other news, college football rapidly approaching, coming up quicker. Can't wait.
Oh my God. Huge news today that, the Big Ten is going over to CBS, which is a little weird when I heard the SEC theme song over, Maryland versus Iowa and the Wisconsin running attack. It's going to be interesting, but huge deal there. I've essentially concluded that the Big Ten and the SEC, just because the pure money differential between them and the other conference, never mind the fact that they're gobbling up the other conferences, we're just going to it's going to be like the AFC NFC of college football. It's going to be Big Ten will be the AFC, SEC, NFC, however you want to do it. And that's it.
I agree. It's going to become a two-conference league. No doubt about it.
And then in like 30 years, they're going to be like, maybe we should break this up into a regional thing and then have smaller divisions within that regional thing. Just how they're going to get us with streaming, where like in 10 years, they're going to be like, man, what if we just bundled up all these apps and sold it to you one solid price? Oh, so cable again.
Yep. I'm with you.
Can't wait.
Life comes around in full circle.
Yes. Oh, good times. But we have some exciting football teams to talk about today, mostly in the AFC East. We're also going to do the AFC South breakdown, but that'll be coming in a separate episode. But we're recording it all in one day. Fun for us. Let's start with the king of the East at this point in the AFC East, a team that has taken the throne from the Pats, and that is the Buffalo Bills. This is a team that's coming in with high expectations, and when we talk about this football team, we are talking essentially at this point sort of Super Bowl or bust. They are in that echelon of teams that when we look at them, they're in the Super Bowl conversation. So we're going to probably talk about them mostly from that aspect. Their win total margin is sitting at 11.5. Last season, they won 11-6. They are without Brian Daboll, though, as their OC. In comes Ken Dorsey. Things are shifting. The winds are changing. How do you look at this Bills team this year, and how do you view them overall in the landscape of what is an absolute brutal AFC and a more competitive AFC East, but seems to still be their throne to lose?
Yeah. It's they're the kings of the AFC East, but I do agree the AFC East this season, I think it could be a fun little division there. It's just this team is by far the best. If you look at their roster, they are so stacked. I mean, offense and defense. It's rare that you see that in the NFL now, where you're kind of stacked on both ends of the ball, but they really are. I mean, I love this team this year. I agree that it is pretty much Super Bowl or bust. Last year that ending haunts Buffalo Bills fans to this day and will for the rest of their lives. But
people in Buffalo have been waking up in midnight terror sweats at like 2 a.m. because of that coin flip. Yeah, their poor wives are just freaking out in bed with them just losing their shit. And the ladies could be. We're multiple.
This is true, especially up in Buffalo. I mean, that's like one of the most passionate towns in the NFL. But no, I mean, I love what they did in the offseason. You bring in Von Miller, you bring in OJ Howard, you bring in more weapons for Josh Allen. Like, that's the last thing he needs, but you do it. You bring in Jamison Crowder. I think he's going to be awesome on that team.
Huge to add depth there.
Yeah, great to add depth. He's great in the slot. He's going to be awesome. I like this team. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to go with them as my Super Bowl pick, but it's possible. I mean, they're just loaded.
They are absolutely loaded. This is a team that comes in this season where the roster is Super Bowl worthy. My big concern is the offensive coordinator switch. And it's because we don't know what Ken Dorsey's going to bring, but Brian Daboll publicly last year had some feuds with Sean McDermott, I give him all the credit in the world. He has flipped this organization around. He has helped build one of the best rosters in football. This team is night and day to what they were just a handful of years ago. But Sean McDermott is starting to strike me as a guy who doesn't recognize exactly what he has. I mean, last season, he was throwing hissy fits about them not being a physical run team when they clearly were not built that way. That offensive line could not be a physical downforce run team. The running back situation wasn't great, and yet he very much wanted to become more run heavy. Brian Dable was very, kind of butting heads with him and not allowing that. There were some rumors that even if Brian hadn't gotten the Giants job, he may have left just because of the internal conflict and wanting to change that, which is absolutely insane to me, given this offense has been the most efficient offense in the NFL last year. And the year before that, they were one of the most efficient offenses. And they were the most pass heavy on first down and second most pass heavy overall in the NFL, which resulted in the best offense in the NFL. And yet Sean McDermott's over here like, run the ball more.
Yeah, just makes me scratch my head. I why mess with what works? I never understand it. It's like in college basketball when your team gets up by 26 and then the second half comes and they're not doing what put them up by 26 and you're just losing your mind.
Which is insane to me.
Yeah. I mean, Josh Allen is probably, I think we talked about it in the game against Mahomes. Obviously Mahomes, probably the best quarterback in the NFL. But just watching both of them, the way the ball comes off their hand, I mean, Josh Allen, the way the ball comes out of his arm, it might be even crazier than the way it comes out of Mahomes' arm. I mean, it is a rocket.
Absolute rocket ship attack to him. And when you look at the offensive line, they did some to improve it a little bit, but it's still not great. I mean, they were top 10 in pass blocking, but bottom 10 in run blocking the last 2 years. And even worse is Sean McDermott has come out, and while he wants to run the ball more, he wants to run Josh Allen less, who is their most dynamic runner and arguably the most dynamic quarterback in the NFL. Yes, Lamar Jackson is a more dynamic runner, but Josh Allen clearly a better arm, so they sort of equal themselves out, and I give it to Josh Allen as the most dynamic quarterback. And their offense was so designed runs and impromptu runs were absolutely explosive for him. I get wanting to save him a little bit, but as we talk about all the time, Super Bowl windows are super, super small. They close very fast. And the Bills have a roster right now with guys that are in contract years on the defensive side. They upgraded their defense. It's like, you got to roll this season. And that's why, well, yes, I think they're the best team in the AFC East. I do have strong concerns about is Dorsey, because Dorsey is a guy that got hired by Sean McDermott. So there's thought in my mind that he's not going to fight him as much. Sean McDermott wouldn't have hired him if they didn't align somewhat on offensive philosophies. So if the idea is you're going to get less efficient, the passing offense seems, there's also concerns about, shortening the routes and getting more yak, which sort of flies in the face of what Josh Allen does the best, which is throw the ball 10 yards plus down the field in his air yards. So it to me, I'm very concerned about not so much that they're going to dominate in the AFC East or be one of the premier football teams, but it's that Super Bowl conversation because they are one of those rosters that is Super Bowl worthy. They've upgraded the defense enormously, which I haven't even talked about yet.
I know.
But the concern about the offense, it does concern me, especially because they played very light boxes last year in the run game, and they still weren't efficient. So I don't know. We'll see. That concerns me. But you hit on some couple key points. They get Von Miller added to that defense, which was the second best pressure defense last season. Unreal. I mean, this is a team now. Von Miller, you got to get him to the postseason. But if they get him to the postseason, you add him to a team that didn't have trouble last year getting pressure. You have Ed Oliver, who's been very good. I mean, he was 7th in ESPN's pass rush win rate among defensive tackles, 9th in run stop win rate, only defensive tackle to be in top 10 for both. And he was 9th in pressure rate per SSS. So you got Tim Seattle, who's a nice piece, nothing crazy, but adds a little depth. Von Miller's there now. I mean, it's just, you go out and draft Elam from Florida, which I love that draft pick. Who knows if he'll be an elite corner, but he brings all the traits you want. He's big, physical press corner, played really good down at Florida and SEC country. The sky is somewhat the limit. It's just, does coaching get in the way here?
Yep. You got to be worried about that. But this team, I mean, it is stacked. They're ready to go. And I mean, just looking at this roster, I'm just so jealous. They're so stacked. It's crazy.
It's nuts. And it will be interesting. I mean, I think the real test will be that first week game against LA.
Mhm.
What does the offensive philosophy look like? Because if they are just running straight into Aaron Donald, buckle up. I think the Super Bowl is not in your favor unless they switch philosophies. But if they come out and they're dynamic in that game and they understand the team and the philosophies that need to be run, all right, Bills fan, you got yourselves a shot here.
I think so. And let Josh Allen run. I mean, even he's generally kind of smart when he runs. Sometimes he does crazy things, but and even when he gets hit, he's the size of a tight end. He's fine.
Yeah,
he's huge.
I mean, the argument, in my opinion, is: do you want 10 years of Josh Allen, but you're not optimizing your offensive efficiency, or do you want 6 years where you're just firing on all cylinders, truly competing as a top tier team offense in the NFL?
Yeah,
I go the 6 years because you're in that window right now. I believe Edwards, the linebacker, is on a contract year 2, so he's probably going to step up pretty big this year. Guys tend to like to get paid, so contract years tend to be a big deal for them. Yeah, it comes down to the offensive philosophy and what they're going to bring. And right now, there's too much up in the air for me to say they will win the Super Bowl, but I do think they win the AFC East. And continue to be one of the top tier teams in the AFC, making this AFC just so brutal.
Yep.
Anything else before we move on?
No, that's about it.
Let's talk about a team that is getting they've won the offseason, apparently. According to everybody, they've just won the offseason, just turned it in. And granted, they did have a very good draft and has had a good offseason. But that team that I'm talking about is the New York Jets, a franchise that has been nothing but pain and misery to watch for years. They're coming into year 2 of this coaching era with Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur. They are sitting at 5.5, I think last I checked, win total. Let me just double check that here for you guys. This is a team that has done a pretty good job in the offseason. I'm not going to lie. They did a good job in drafting a lot of high-end prospects. They went out in free agency and they spent some money on some very key players. I love the CJ Uzma. I did the same thing. I did it when I did the Bengals thing. Tight end. They brought in some additional talent to help support Zach Wilson. Where do you see this team lining up this year? And do they make that jump to really be the second tier team, or are they fighting for the bottom of the AFC East again?
I think they're fighting for the bottom of the AFC East. I mean, I like what they're doing, I guess. I kind of think the coaching staff's pretty good, but until you see Zach Wilson take that next step, I don't know how you can really predict this team to do much. And right now, he's not playing and he probably won't start the season, it's kind of iffy. We'll see about that. And it's just, I like bringing in Corey Davis. That's nice. Breece Hall, I still don't, he has a lot of unproven weapons that I don't truly trust yet. I do like CJ Uzuma, but I don't trust this team yet. And I'm probably going under the 5.5, honestly.
Yeah, this is going to be a prove it, doubt it until they prove it. I did like their draft. I mean, Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State, stud wide receiver in college. We'll see how he transitions into the NFL, but a good wide receiver. Sauce Gardner, I was huge on Sauce Gardner in college. I love the guy, his size and the things he can do. Great. Jeremy Johnson out of Florida State was one of those guys, could be great value. We'll see if he can get after it. Yeah, this is a team. I think the Jets are heading in the right direction, but I'm not one to get ahead of the tracks. Zach Wilson, you have always been a bit of a Zach Wilson doubter, and I'm starting to follow suit a little bit here. We'll see. I think this year he does have to make the jump. I mean, he's got a better wide receiver core. The offensive line, not great. The Becton injury sucks. I mean, that kid cannot stay healthy, which absolutely sucks.
Yeah, it does.
He could be a stud, but it feels like they're moving in the right direction. But I think the media is getting a little far ahead of themselves. This is still a tough season. They're in a tough division. The Dolphins, who we're going to talk about here in a minute, are all improving. We'll see where the Pats are in a second here. They start off the season in relatively tough form. I mean, they go Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Steelers. Not great to start.
No,
I don't know how they play the entire division in week 1 through 4. That is an interesting thing.
That is bizarre, actually.
Yeah. They play the entire AFC North in the first 4 weeks of the season. But yeah, so that's gonna be tough. But this is a wait and see team for me. Like I like everything they're doing. It seems to be trending in the right direction. The defensive line, I think, is going to be a lot better this year too. They've done a lot. I like what they're doing. Johnson could be a real value add. My goodness. You got Williams inside, who was 4th among defensive tackles in the pass rush win rate on ESPN and 16th at the position and pressure rate. Carl Lawson's coming back. We'll see. I mean, he suffered an Achilles tear that is tough to come back from, but we'll see. Wait and verify. I think the defense steps up this year a little bit more under Robert Saleh. The pieces start to come together. I still think they're a year or two away, so I would not get ahead of it too quickly here, like everybody else seems to be doing. But that's my take on this team. Everything is in the right direction. Just now need to execute and show that they're getting a little better year to year.
Yeah, I mean, they're young. I mean, you want to think that there's a lot of talent on the team. I think they're pretty talented. It's a lot of based on potential kind of with this team. And you can't trust them when they're all that young still, kind of.
Yep. Got to show it on the field. But a lot of high potential, we'll say that. A lot of positions that if it goes right, this could be something. But it's the Jets. I'm going to wait to verify that.
It's a good idea.
Let's move on to the New England Patriots, a team that has defied odds for years to come, but comes into the season in a little bit of a peculiar spot. The brain trust at offensive coordinator is something to say the least this year. With Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, I guess, splitting duties. I don't really understand it. All words out of camp is this has not been going well. Go figure. You got Steve Belichick at defensive coordinator, and Bill is going to have to probably put together his best coaching year. This team's expectation is sitting at 8.5 wins is the over under right now. They're projected to be about 3rd in the division. Where do you see this team? Because this team, I look at it right now and I'm sort of sensing the downfall of the Patriots dynasty. It has fallen, but I'm going to say more as the prestigious team. This is a year where they could really be looking at a losing season, similar to 2020 in my book. How do you see this playing out? And do you see Mac Jones, I guess the better question, being able to adapt to the brain trust of an offensive coordinators?
I don't think it's a great situation for Mac Jones, who I like a lot, actually. I think he's got a lot of moxie. I think he's super confident. I think he plays kind of edgy. So I like Mac Jones a lot, but I am concerned about like you said, the offensive coaching situation. One thing I'm worried about with Belichick is obviously Belichick is the king. He's probably the greatest coach of all time. But I wonder if these assistants that he has that, used to work for him, then went off and became head coaches. Now they're coming back. Do you think there's maybe like a little bit of an ego thing going on over there? I think that's definitely possible. And also, Patricia, what is his offensive experience? I mean, he knows more about football than we do, obviously, but like
he's a defensive-minded defensive coordinator, ex-rocket scientist.
So I'm sure.
I don't know if anybody saw the Lions product he put on the field week to week as a head coach, but that offense stunk.
Yeah, it was really bad, and I'm sure he maybe can figure it out, but it's just very bizarre. I don't know. It's like you can't doubt them until you really see them fall. I mean, the team it's solid. You want to have a better season out of both Hunter Henry and John, especially Jonnu Smith, who you're spending so much money on those two tight ends. I like bringing in Devontae Parker's a guy who I think always has had the talent. It's just staying healthy and just being in terrible situations. Everything I've read is that he's actually tearing it up in camp. So hopefully he has a great season. I like this team kind of probably 3rd in the East. That's like a 8-9 win team, maybe 7 if it gets real bad. But yeah, I kind of think that I think they're a team that probably can beat anybody just kind of because they are the Patriots, but you're just not going to see that consistent world-class team anymore.
Yeah, this could potentially get ugly if it doesn't get rolling quick, because they're apparently changing their running scheme completely. They're changing to the 49ers kind of scheme, and they're doing that with two completely new guards. A guy who played at Chattanooga, who is starting at left guard, I believe, that I have him playing, and their right guard is new. So the offensive line, you lose Shaq Mason, which is tough. You flip it on the defense, you lose JC Jackson, which was a huge edge because Bill loves to play man-to-man, and he was rated out as the best corner in man-to-man defense last year. You lose Hightower. You've got Judon, who gets after the quarterback like an absolute madman. But the defense, when you look at it, it's an aging secondary, not a ton of star power, which they've had star power, but that's not like Bill Belichick doesn't need star power. But I definitely think this defense is going to put him to the biggest test he's ever had. And then the offense, I do like Mac Jones. I think the guy, he clearly studies well, because it always felt like he knew where to go with the football. It's just whether or not the wide receivers were getting some separation and doing their part, holding up their end of the bargain. But he seemed in his rookie year to know where to go with the football, which was very good. I have concerns with the brain trust in the offensive coordinator position. I have concerns about the offensive line. And if they're switching to a new run scheme, it's apparently not going great. It just feels like things could snowball very badly here, very, very quickly.
Yes.
But at the same time, it is Bill Belichick. You trust but verify. So I trust he's going to do well, but we got to wait to verify it, because I look at the roster and it doesn't scream anything but third place in this division, and a team that's going to win some games, and like they're just going to be probably a fine football team at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All righty. Let's move on to maybe the most exciting team right now, a team that has put together some very explosive pieces this season, and that is the Miami Dolphins. This is a team that has changed up the coaching staff. Mike McDaniels comes in as the head coach, offensive-minded guy. Kyle Shanahan has been very high on his offensive prowess. You bring in Tyreek Hill, an explosive wide receiver option to pair with Waddle. You bring in Armstead to play left tackle to upgrade the offensive line. You just bring in all these new pieces. And the Miami Dolphins now look like a team that has somewhat of a bright future. Where do we see them? They're sitting at 8.5 over under on the win prop, projected to be about the number 2 team in the AFC East. Where do you see this team going in this upcoming season? And is the future as bright as some are pointing out?
I mean, I look at it as being pretty bright, which is just kind of ironic because, I mean, last year, I think through week 9, we were talking about this is the worst team in the NFL. And then they just completely turned it around. They made the coaching change, which probably didn't need to happen, but also did need to happen. Obviously, there was some relationship issues there. But I mean, you got to love the team. You got to love the offense. Like you said, explosive. I mean, Waddle, Hill, and I know he's probably their backup running, but Raheem Mostert, I just want to see them all race. I mean, that's got to be the fastest trio on the field in the NFL right now. I mean, it's just crazy. Obviously, Houston is going to be Tua. I think Tua, even though he's got a solid backup in Teddy, I think Tua could potentially be on kind of a short leash. I don't expect him to really lose his job, but if he doesn't perform here, I mean, he is out of excuses. Not that he's been giving excuses, but he's got all the weapons in the world now. So, if they don't come out strong, I could see them making a quarterback change. Not that Teddy's really going to, he's super conservative. He's not going to air it out. So he's not really good for this team, in my opinion. But overall, I actually like the team. I like them in probably finishing in second. I like them over the 8.5. I know that over is probably like juiced to like minus 140, which is kind of meh. But still, I mean, even on the other side of the ball, they have some good veterans, Xavier Howard, Melvin Ingram, Byron Jones. It's a solid team. I think they're going to be really fun to watch. I think they're definitely going to give the Bills probably the most trouble in the division, but I don't actually expect them to really compete for first. But I wouldn't want my team playing them.
No, this is a very exciting team, but I think you hit it perfectly. It's on Tua. this is make or break. I'm not saying you have to go out and be the best quarterback in the world, but you have to show some significant progress because the world is your oyster here. I mean, they've given you everything. You've got an offensive-minded coach, a very bright one in that. You've got a new running back room, relatively cheap. You also bring in Chase Edmonds. You upgrade the offensive line, bring in the best left passing block left tackle in Armstead. You have a new center, new left guard. You have Tyreek Hill to pair with Waddle, who is just like, what? Waddle is about to go off this season because last year he was garnering all the attention. He still had the most receptions for rookie wide receivers. Absolute freak in nature. And now you have Hill on the other side of you that everybody has to pay attention to. I mean, you've got good tight ends. We'll see how Gesicki kind of plays into this because the offense is going to be similar to what the 49ers run, and he's not a blocking tight end. So I don't know how he exactly fits into this. And then Cedric Wilson also is not a bad fourth option. So this is a team that has a lot of promise. And then you flip it over to the defensive side. Secondary has some chances here to really grow. You bring in Melvin Ingram, who's a solid football player there. There is real reason to be excited about this Miami Dolphins team. Now, they're not. I don't think they're not better than the Bills, but they're going to put up a fight against the Bills this year. They're going to win some games. They're going to be a lot better. I do like over 8.5. Yeah. I don't know if the value is necessarily there because it's like minus 150, I think, last I saw. And that's always tough to take an over on a team when, especially in the NFL, which could be, injuries ruin you right there. And you don't know what Tua is. So I'm not going to bet it, but I do like it. I think this team gets more than 8 wins. I think they're competing for second best team in the division. I think the future is bright. And if Tua doesn't work out, worst case scenario, Lamar might be hitting the free agency market. We know if he doesn't get his contract done by week 1, he's going to stop negotiating with the Ravens until the offseason. You could potentially go back in the draft. We'll see. I mean, you want Tua to work out, but anybody you put into this offense, I mean, hard to fail or not at least be average in this offense.
I mean, as a Buccaneers fan, it's just even having a team that's appealing is a good thing because good quarterbacks might choose to go there, and Miami is a great option.
Who wouldn't want to throw to Hill and Waddle?
Sounds nice.
Sounds real nice. So I do like this team. I think the hype is real. I like the defense. 8.5 wins. I think they're going to clear that, and I think they're going to be number 2 in this division. They're going to give the Bills a little bit of a tough time. I still think the Bills win the division. I think the Bills are one of the top tier teams in NFL. I think Super Bowl all depends on what the offensive scheme looks like. God, I hope they don't mess with it too much. Like that is an offense that you should just be fine tuning, not making giant changes to, but we'll see. But this division, it's interesting. Like you have the Jets, a lot of young prospects there, could have a bright future if things break their way. You've got the Dolphins, also could have a bright future. The Patriots are never out of it. They do seem to be trending a little bit downward, but we'll see. I mean, the AFC East isn't like the best division, but there's a lot of, I think, bright futures. We'll say it's the conference of tomorrow.
I agree.
Or division of tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. It's fun division, and I think it's going to be really good this season because recently it's kind of been meh. Like we always know who's going to win, which we kind of do know this season, but just the teams will just be better in my opinion.
Correct. Much more competitive football. And, we get Dolphins Pat right off the bat, and then we're rolling, and I like it. All right. That'll do it. That's another division wrapped up. We're going to hit the AFC South here, and we're rolling on our way. Anything else before we wrap this one up?
No, that's it.
Beautiful. As always, peace.